good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you guys to another edition of Creative Monday Discussion. I'm your host, Mervin Budram, and we will be with you for the next hour and a half. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I want to remind you guys right now, tonight we're going to have some awesome discussion around how we can stimulate our kids, how we can help them to focus and provide tools and tips and help them to connect in during this time. We know that COVID has affected a lot of different areas, and we've been talking about that. We've talked about the music arena, we've talked about the business arena, and we want to talk tonight about how it has obviously affected our kids and what we can do as parents, as teachers, and educators. I have some amazing panel guests will join us shortly. But what I want to ask you guys just to share this link, invite your friends, have them connect in, and let us know as well. Comment in the comment section below so that we can know where you're tuning in from and that we can give you a shout out here from Belize. Again, it's a pleasure being with you. Before we hop in, I just want to take this moment just to thank some of our sponsors. We want to thank Task Belize Limited, Elevate Consulting, Coaching with Melanie, Builders Hardware, KSBJ Fashions, The Art Shack, and Boojum Solutions. Because of their partnership, we can do these creative mode discussion. And if you want to find out how you can partner with us, be a sponsor, kindly reach out to myself, send us an email at info@mervinbudram.com, or send us a WhatsApp or a call at 614-8540. But without any further ado, we want to hop in. I want to encourage you guys again, comment in the comment section, let us know where you're tuning in, and let us know as well if you have any questions for our panel as we get on. Let us know, send them in. I just want to first of all just give a shout out to Barrington Morris from New York. He was one of our guests from last week, and he's tuned in with us. James Sanker is tuned in, and some others who are tuned in. Again, comment in the comment section to let us know where you're tuning in from, and then we can go from there. So without any further ado, we want to hop in and start to introduce our guests for this evening. And this first person I want to invite, I want to introduce to you guys, she's a good friend of mine. We've go way back. Specifically, I'm thinking about a show that we did together, Legacy Got Talent. I think that was one of the shows that we actually got to work very closely together, learn a little bit about each other, get on each other's nerves and grow in our relationship in that sense, right? And so she is also doing an awesome job as a counselor, kind of continuing to connect with girls, continue to connect with youths in Belize. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce to you guys this evening Miss Verlie Rebecca. Good evening, Verlie. How are you doing?
Hi everyone.
You see why I love Verlie?
I am doing well. Merv, you made my mind go back to what I must tell you. We were little. We did Legacy.
That was a long time. That was what, 10 years? 10 years, maybe? I don't know. I've lost track.
Whatever anniversary you and Ruth is celebrating is around that time you guys started to date. I remember very specifically.
You're right. Right, because Legacy, you're right. I fell in love with Ruth doing Legacy Got Talent. You are right. That was the beginnings of it. That's another story. We won't go into that tonight. We won't go into tonight, but that was the beginnings of our love journey. So welcome, Verlie. It's a pleasure to have you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do.
It is a pleasure to know.
All right. Awesome. And I think we have a slight delay on your mic, but I think that's okay. We'll work on that as we go on. So what we'll do, I'll go ahead and introduce my next guest for this evening. My next guest for this evening, just so you guys know, we're going to add our guests in one at a time. I call it the Brady Bunch because we're all going to be on the screen and we're going to have discussion around our topic. But our next guest for this evening is this is my sound weird, but she's not my mom, but she's like a mom to me. A lot of my I would say what I've learned as a parent, what I've gleaned in how we raise our kids and what we do, I've learned from her and her family. I remember years ago. I Most people don't know this, but I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to be married, and then I got to live with their family for 7 months after an injury, and that was the beginning of a transformational process in my life. And so I won't go into a lot of that, but what I do want to say is I've learned so much about parenting, educating my child, and how to stimulate them just from her life and what they do. So without any further ado, I want to take this opportunity to introduce Miss Cheryl Stirm to you guys. Good evening, Miss Cheryl. How are you doing? Can you hear me? All right. I think we're having a little bit of technical issues. We'll sort that out as we move forward, but um, we'll come back to Miss Cheryl, and as we kind of sort out what's happening with the mic as well. All right. So let me go ahead and introduce my next guest while we figure out what's happening with the mic there. This happens, guys. It happens from time to time. So let me. I'm not hearing you, Miss Cheryl. All right. While Miss Cheryl is working on that, let me introduce my next guest to you guys. Um, he is Belize. He's a Cuban Belizean teacher, music teacher. He works with a lot of artist singers here in Belize. He's become a friend of mine as well, and I love bouncing ideas off him, and he's been very instrumental. Even in me, he's actually my vocal coach. I do voice lessons with hit the school that they done Allegro Music School, and so I want to introduce to you guys this evening, Mr. Yoelvis Lunar. Let's hope that we are getting our mics together. How are you, Elvis? How's your mic?
Hey guys,
There
can
you
you
go. We
hear
can
me
hear
good?
you. Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. There you go.
Uh,
All right. So, good evening, Elvis. Can you just tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and yeah.
all right, thank you so much for inviting me to this creative chat. I have been following up every Monday what's going on whenever I'm not in class in between. So it's really a pleasure to be here this evening and especially with the ladies and you,
I know,
Mervin.
right? We are outnumbered, Elvis.
I know. But yeah, well, my name is Yoelvis Lunar. I Cuban Belizean. I always say that because it's been 10 years here in Belize, so I already know how to cook rice and beans and all of that. So might as well say Cuban Belizean. And then I'm like very close to you, especially because you have been working with Allegro and
Yeah.
Chloe as well. I'm a music teacher and educator, especially in this time that we have been dealing with COVID-19. It's been quite an experience to
Yeah, it
keep the
has.
kids and the students motivated to be in class and to continue practice an instrument or so.
It has been interesting. We've had to do homeschooling with our kids here on the computers, kind of take the lessons. I remember when we started to do the even the music classes online, Zoom and all of that, and it was a definitely an uphill learning curve. It was an uphill, and I think a lot of parents and a lot of teachers had to quickly learn and get on the ball wagon, right? And so yeah, it's been a very interesting season. But I think tonight part of our discussion will talk about some of what we've learned and how we can continue grow as parents in working with our kids, right? So yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion. So I want to introduce our next guest for this evening. This is a good friend of mine. We go way back. I remember even a few years back. I remember being in Tampa with their family and just kind of learning a little bit about what they do. Navigate. She's a headmaster at a school there in Tampa in the U.S. And I remember going up there, kind of getting the grand tour, learning and seeing hands on a lot of what she does, right? And so I let me just quickly introduce Miss Jennifer Clark. She's not a stranger to Belize. Hi, Miss Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys doing?
We are doing fine. It's great to have you with us, man. Welcome to Belize again.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Can you tell us a little bit about just so that everyone can know a little bit about you and I know everyone Miss Jen is in the US and she's working up there, but she's not a stranger to Belize. She's been very instrumental in the educational journey for us as a nation, specifically with BCA and some other programs that she's developed here in Belize. So Miss Jen, feel free to share a little bit more about that with us.
Yeah, sure. So, in 2006, I moved to Belize, and I was there for about 4 years. And I worked at BCA as the head of school there, and was approached by several people to do some training and look at just some various things. And what I found, you know, which happens a lot in foreign countries, is you do have a lot of people from Canada and the United States coming in and doing training, and I
Yeah.
really felt like it was necessary to train Belizeans there and create a professional development company that's for Belizeans and by Belizeans. And so we have a
Yeah.
lot of people and a lot of friends. And I think over time we've probably touched about, I think in my bio it said 900, but we're like 1,200 now.
Oh wow.
Being able to be, we've been in every district. We have about 40 coaches that work without me needing to be there. So, and really we're just looking at school efficacy and doing things outside of the box and pushing the envelope, but
Awesome.
giving people resources and time to be able to work together and research together, but have a ground right there in Belize, have a cohort of really strong, talented educators to support each other. Versus, I'm not saying you shouldn't rely on the US or Canada or wherever the people are coming from, but there's something to be said about your where you live, having an efficacy there to do the
Yeah.
work there. And so over time I come back all the time. I'm a resident of Belize. I have my passport now, so I plan to come back soon. I was coming this summer, but then we have this crisis among us.
Yeah.
But I love Belize, and I'm still connected with a few of the schools. We do Zoom calls with schools and collaborate. We've got one again on Thursday. So
Awesome.
just excited to join the amazing team you have here, Merv.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You mentioned just now about just the resources and making those available, and that's what I'm hoping for tonight. For those who are tuning in tonight, we are talking about we're talking how to keep our kids stimulated, how to keep them motivated, how to really help them in this time. We know that the kids have been affected by COVID. It's a given, and we don't want to kind of overlook them as we're working on finding solutions from all the other areas. And so tonight we want to talk about and glean from these educators, parents, just tips and tools and resources that we can use for our kids in this time. So again, if you have questions, feel free to add them, comment in the comment section and share them, and we want to be able to tackle some of those questions as we go on. I have one more guest to introduce to you guys tonight. And this guest and I also go way back. She might not remember this, but we actually went to school together. We went to school at SJC Junior College, and she was very involved in music back then and very passionate. And one thing I know about her, everything that she does, she goes 100. I remember back then, both her and her brother was heavily in music, and they were like going 100. And then she also she also actually pioneered and launched one of Belize's an app that an app that actually train and prepare kids for PSC, and now she's doing some really cool, awesome stuff in a new space. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce our next guest tonight, and no other than Miss Tiffany Simpson. Hi, Miss Tiffany, how are you doing? And I noticed that
Hi,
you are
yes, AKA Super
yeah,
Mom.
you're super mom. If you guys don't know, I'm a superhero fan. I love superheroes. I'm like all into comics. I'm all into the Flash and all this. That's another story for another night. So it's excited to have a superhero on our set tonight. So Tiffany, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and just share your story with us quickly?
Hi, good night, everybody. Thanks, Mervin, for having me. Um, my name is Tiffany Simpson, aka Supermom. I cosplay as Supermom. And my journey, and this is long after the music thing, this was just 9 years ago. Music has been, I think, whew, without aging myself, 16 years of the music. All right, so I'll just put that there. But recently, about 9 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism. And it was during that challenge that I taught myself to create computer games and mobile apps to help him overcome challenges with his speech and his social skills. And the results were amazing. In fact, today he is 12 years old. He has his own business in animation development, and he teaches animation development. He has an online course he developed during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah.
Um, 3 times a year, he would have in-person workshops that he would offer to children his age. And due to the lockdown, we were forced to move the workshops online. So he's been teaching animation development online, and he's been collecting money for
Awesome. That's awesome. But we are definitely looking
you
forward
guys
to
are going in and out. Are you hearing me?
we're hearing you. We're hearing you loud and clear.
Excuse me?
We're hearing you loud and clear.
Okay. I was just making sure because I saw the screen blinking. Yeah, so thank you. Um he just recently launched his animated app book series on the Google Play Store. So every month he's publishing an animated app book for
Awesome.
children his age. And then in the app book, he features animated work from the students who take his course. So that's what we've been doing. And yes, I also homeschool. I've been homeschooling for 5 years now. And besides the game for the PSC, BJAT, and CXC exams, I know Mervin knows about the PSC one, but we do have for BJAT and CXC as well for Belize here locally. We've also developed a homeschooling platform to help those parents who, they're not confident about sending their kids back to school, but they're still green about homeschooling in Belize.
Yeah. It's good. Awesome, guys. And so, as you can all see, we have an awesome panel of teachers, parents, resource for you. And tonight, part of why we do these sessions is to inspire, motivate, and help bring transformation to your life. And so, if you have questions, I mean, my wife and I, we've been talking a lot in this time of what parents can do for their kids, because we have kids. We have 3 girls, and then we've been following closely what's been going on in the public school, in the private school, and kind of seeing the solutions that everyone's trying to figure out how to help our kids during this time. And I'll be the first to say it was not easy, and I know it's not easy for the parents, it's not easy for the teachers, it's not easy, I would say, even for the government, everyone across board trying to navigate this crisis that has happened, that has hit the world. And so I know we've learned a lot along the journey. And I think my first question for our panel, and I just want to say this is a open discussion. Anyone can feel free to hop in, feed off each other, give insights, give input based on what you've learned. But what would you say from the group of kids you work with? What would you say is the biggest impact you've seen COVID have had on them, and what did you do or what can be done to help them with those impacts? Anyone can take that first question, and then we can go from there. And again, the question is, what's the biggest impact you've seen COVID has had on kids during this time, and what have you done, or what have your circles done, and or what can be done about it?
All right. I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about a little bit of the music aspect. And in my music classes, I noticed from the beginning, as a musician, as a music class, we are used to play with other people, and the students were used to always be playing in groups, or actually having like the theory classes in group as well. And I noticed that the first couple of theory classes online, we were using Google Classroom, and I was posting material and work for them to work. But they keep asking me week after week, when are we going to have a Zoom class all together in the class? And I'm like, this is gonna be pretty crazy to have all of you step students, like 7, 8 years old, all together in a Zoom class discussing theory aspects. But they keep asking me about that. And I realized that what they were missing, it was seeing each other
Yeah.
in the class. There were a whole school year, almost a whole school year, seeing each other in class, sharing pencil, sharing words, sharing snacks, all kind of things. And now there's come a time when they are alone at
Yeah.
home behind a computer when they are used to be with other children in the class. So that was the first thing I noticed, that they really, really miss to be in a group environment
Yeah.
and their classmates. The individual instrument classes are fine. They're used actually to participate more and practice more because they're at home most of the time. But the social connection part, the part of they being actually involved in a group, was missing, and they were missing that and repeating that every week. When are we going to have music class together again? So I tried to come up with some ideas of using 1 week Zoom, 1 week Google Classroom, and make sure that they interact with each other
It's good.
on a week basis. So the first thing that I'm gonna say that we have to keep with our children, and from the music aspect, is the maintaining the social connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me as a teacher, was very important to find a way to have all of them together in the same screen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, we can't have them in the classroom now, so I need to find a way to have them all together in the same
In the same
screen,
screen. It's good.
sharing, talking, and participating, and seeing each other. So for me, that was something that I was looking towards. Was like actually maintaining the social connections in between them. So I will advise parents that most of the parents in a classroom have even WhatsApp chats where they
Yeah.
communicate with each other, or they actual communication with the teacher on a daily basis. So I will advise the parents that sometimes to, at this moment in Belize, we are able to see each other, but 1 month ago, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So if things go back to what was like 2 months ago, I will advise parents to actually set up group calls with the other classmates in the class,
It's good.
and talk about even like what they learned this week, not only music, but with the rest of the subjects. Most of the parents have communication with each other. So always keep their social connection alive, because we adults, we, even though I almost drove myself crazy the past 3 months being by myself in a house with two dogs, teaching our children all day. We could take it better, but
Yeah.
children, they
They need that
need
social
social
interaction.
connection.
Yeah.
And
It's
if
good.
they're used to see you for a few hours, remember that they see their classmates and their friends more than they see you.
Yeah.
So they need that social connection alive. So that's what I'm going
That's
to
very
add
good.
from
Very
Awesome.
that
good.
point of view.
Yeah. And before we continue with everyone else, giving answer to that, I just also wanted to reintroduce Miss Cheryl Stirm. We when we were doing the introduction, the mic wasn't working. So Miss Cheryl, I just want
Sorry.
to again officially welcome you. If you just want to share a little bit about who you are, what you do, and guys, I just want to just say, for Miss Cheryl has played a huge role in impacting the lives of so many young people and kids in Roaring Creek and even in Belize, right? And so, Cheryl, feel free to introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, hi, good night, everyone. I've lived in Belize for 37 years. I live in Roaring Creek. I homeschooled our kids for 16 years, as well as foster kids, and have a passion for working with kids. Now, right now, I work at Belize Christian Academy there and in the village and the community. I love to help kids with whatever they're struggling with, reading, especially reading, but math and in this COVID time and all the time to kind of look them in the eye and find out what are they feeling, what are they going through, and find out kind of what's holding them back, what have been some of their struggles or whatever, if they're behind in school, and then be able to speak life and encouragement and help get them back on track. And so I'm passionate about working with kids and education.
Awesome. And maybe Michelle, while you're sharing, maybe you can, what have you observed in this time, what from working with the kids at the school, both in Roaring Creek and at BCA? What's some of the challenges you've observed, and what have you been doing and the school has been doing to address that?
Well, even with our school, it went totally online, and that was great. But what I noticed working with some of the kids is when I would do a lot of the work, you know, you do it through Google Classroom and that. You're giving assignments, you're hearing back, getting the assignments back, but we had some Zoom times, and I could tell that they really craved that time together, like Yoelvis was saying, that time just to hear each other's voices. And so then making sure there was time for that how can you learn when you're not even happy, you know, you're just all alone. And then making sure that I connected with them individually too. So not just sending back assignments over internet, but making personal comments to each child as best I could, so that they know they're connecting with a human. It's hard that internet has so many advantages, but to me the disadvantage is looking in someone's eyes and connecting with how are they feeling today. And so trying to connect with them, even with comments, hey, I like what you said about this question, that kind of thing. In the village, what I've noticed with the lockdown is kids coming back to tutoring, and they've lost an awful lot over the time. So many kids have not been doing schoolwork, or very little, so little, and they've actually lost ground. And so then having to encourage them and help them to get back their study skills. Some of the little ones I'm working with, they can't sit still for a half hour or 20-minute reading class because they've been playing for months. And so they really need encouragement, affirmation, and some, you know, kind of loving, firm guidance to, okay, let's get back on track here, because you're going to have to go back to school. It's hard. Challenge.
And we did the homeschool. We did it with our kids as well. Our kids go to my daughter goes to Shepherd, and same thing, we did the online. But even with that, as you're saying, sitting there for an hour or two in front of a computer, and the continual encouragement and affirmation and reminder, like for them, that was huge on their part as well. Going, like Yoelvis was saying, from a classroom setting where you're interacting with everyone, you're feeding off everyone, and now you're in this space on a screen, sitting in a desk, and you're expected to sit there for hours and hours and try to process what it was. A huge learning curve for my daughter as well, and for us, right? And so I think it's very important that we were encouraging and affirming our kids in this time, because I think a lot of them has done a great job in just showing up in a sense and kind of doing it. They didn't have a choice, but they showed up and they did the best that they could to kind of be there and plug in, right? So anyone else have any input on that question, Ms. Jen?
I do apologize. I'm actually not at my house because I had another appointment, and I told Merv I'm happy to join. So I'm kind of like in the Starbucks parking lot, like my favorite place. But it normally is so quiet, and now all of a sudden, so if there's background noise, I'll mute myself and let someone else talk. But I want to speak to yes, parents, but also educators, because I think having the mindset that we have to craft lessons that are hours of sitting just doesn't make sense. And so looking at ways, I love the story from Supermom about how her son was creating this app and training others. That's a life skill. And some of the things that we're doing in the classroom, guys, they're not preparing our kids to do that. And so one of the things we've really looked at is we have this amazing opportunity. Anytime there's a crisis, there's an opportunity for innovation. And so let's take this opportunity to look at, and, you know, with parents even driving the conversation, okay, great. I'm seeing these lessons at home, and I'm seeing hours of this repetitive math work. That's awesome. But how does that matriculate to an algorithm that can create an app? Or how is that used in a recipe? Let's cook. Let's make some Johnny cake. Let's look at how to
Amen.
do fried jack. Let's teach our kids measurement through all of that, and coming up with ideas that are really life skills and attaching them to the core standards. Standards are standards worldwide. We need to do reading, we need to do math, we need to have some
Yeah.
science. But in our daily life, there are so many things that are reading, math, and science. And so taking that time to really connect those, I think, is important. And some of the way we shifted at our school, we just shifted that conversation. And so there were parents that said, look, my child is really hard at focusing on a computer. Can we do this? These are some things we've done today. We gardened. He went with his grandpa and helped build a garden box. He had to measure, he had to paint, he had to figure out, here's his
Mm.
measurements, here's pictures of him doing that. You know what? That's a grade for us. We can equate that to a standard. So, to say, and I've had schools tell me, well, we have to have a worksheet. Why? So I think as parents, if we can kind of drive that conversation as well, and I do know that
Yeah.
people in the US and all over the world, people are struggling with what to do with this. But looking at the kids are stressed anyway. And I love what Elvis said about the social emotional part of the student, because they are so social and they're already panicking. And when you put them
Yeah.
in a place where maybe that parent doesn't know how to do that reading that reading task or the math task, I think if we really look at how can we equate a lot of what we're doing with our kids to real life, I think it's just going to make so much
Yeah.
more sense. And it's going to make our teachers feel better, our parents feel better. And guess what? We're probably going to produce better students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we make that curve? Because I mean, for years we've been doing this classroom setting, the hour setting, and then we had this crisis. And how can one parents make the curve, two teachers make that curve? What are some things that can be done?
Well, one of the things we've looked at with various schools that I've talked with is what are the core values? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is the why?
Yeah, it's good.
If the why is to sit the ACT or the why is to sit the PSE, that's awesome. But what is that PSE going to do for us? And we've had that conversation in Belize for many, many
Yeah.
years. And I think, Elvis, I recognize your name and your accent. I think I recognize you from some of the workshops we've done. But I think that the way we make that curve is to really ask the question, why and what? So what is the goal of education? What are we trying to do to make our students citizens? What skills do they need? Are there some skills in all of the standards in the Ministry of Education, and as well as CARICOM or whatever we're getting all of these things from the U.S. as well? We have to look at what is relevant. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are still very valuable and very relevant. Well, let's keep that. Those things that aren't, and we're just doing them because we've always done them, I want to say let's not. Why? Because we'll be behind. We need to give this opportunity, especially we're using a lot of technology now, and it's kind of forcing. If the country needs to catch up technologically, again, Supermom's son, he's making an app. They're creating
Yeah.
a home learning. That is how innovation happens, and those kinds of pushes will push the government to even make innovation with bandwidth. I've seen it. They're making changes all the time. So I think that as the country is shifting the way they're doing things, the other people that support those platforms have to as well. I think if
Yeah.
you guys could agree with that. And I think the conversation has to be started. It's not a quick fix, but I think that just saying, oh, let's get back to normal. I don't know that we want to get back to normal. I know
Yeah.
we don't. I know a lot of the schools that I've spoken with don't. Definitely a couple schools in Belize are excited to be able to have this conversation. What doesn't excite them is being mandated and told they have to do something that really isn't vetted or isn't really tried yet, and they have no input. So, I think if people are listening, you may want to give people a little bit of input, especially if you're telling people on the ground, hey, you've got to use this, and they don't know
Yeah.
what they're doing. Again, it's a learning experience for everybody. It's just that conversation has to start somewhere.
Yeah. This question I want to kind of direct to Supermom. And because there's a lot of parents out there kind of wondering, how can I do this? I know we're speaking from an educator's point of view. We've gotten feedback from teachers, but I'm thinking about the mom who has, there's a stay-at-home mom. I'm thinking about the mom who has to work, and how do you navigate all of this with your kids? And so, Tiffany, do you have any input on that?
Well, I started homeschooling about 5 years ago, and for me, there wasn't, well, for me, there was a crisis. Not like the pandemic that we're facing right now, but there wasn't much information to go on in terms of um, what to do, how to do it. Um, I had to do a lot of research, and I'm pretty sure I made a lot of errors along the way. Um, but I think that for me, because at that time, like I mentioned, my son has autism, and his reading wasn't developing. I had used the apps to develop his speech, but he was just repeating everything he heard. There was very little comprehension. And then we had this period where we weren't sure how much of what he was saying was based on comprehension, and how much was based on him just repeating what he heard. Um, and I decided, right, this was a decision on my part, that what was being offered in the school system just wasn't enough for me. I knew deep down that there was more for my child than just being an autistic boy who simply echoed everything he heard.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to homeschool, right? And I started with just reading. I didn't do math, I didn't do social studies, I didn't do science, right? For me, the logic behind that was, if he could read, then we can start doing the science and the social studies and even the
Yeah.
math.
Yeah.
But I needed a foundation for him, right? I wasn't just going to sit back and allow him to pass through the school system not knowing how to read, and then they would just keep putting him in a new class, or they would promote him simply because he has special learning needs, and in their mind there wasn't anything else they could do, right? Because they have been teaching a certain way for a very long time, and that's what they were going to continue doing, right? So for me, the first step was to get rid of all the unnecessary subjects and focus on reading only. And then from there, once his reading improved, we were able to add in the other subjects. And then not just that, we started to work on his skills. He had a thing for animation development, so I bought him some software and some apps. And then he started to work on those, and he developed his own business. But to answer your question, as parents, it is our responsibility to ensure that your child's their needs are being met, right?
Yeah.
Educationally.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, like, I have spoken with parents who approach me about the homeschooling, and they are panicking about the curriculum,
Yeah.
right? And the curriculum is a guideline, right? It's a guide. But if you're going to go hard and fast to stick to the curriculum, then you're going to produce more of the, let me choose the words carefully. You don't want your child to fall off being at home, right? And I've noticed in the school system, in the educational system, it's the top 3 students that do well. I was one of those top 3 students. And And the teachers, it's fairly easy for the teachers to go at the pace of the top 3 students because they kind of set the pace in the classroom. They
Yeah.
know the answers. Really, they don't even need the teacher, right? To be they're self-taught. The top 3 students are self-taught. It's the bulk of students who don't know the answers. They don't. Their learning styles, their visual learning styles is not as well developed as their auditory or vice versa. The teacher is teaching in front of the classroom, right? And the teacher is narrating. And then when they get their test and their exam, it's a paper, right?
Yeah.
That they have to feed. So, it's a difference in the learning style in the classroom versus what is expected from them when they sit the test. And all those things I had to consider and I had to be aware of when I started to homeschool my own child. It became clear to me that narrating to him what obviously wasn't the same as putting a piece of paper in front of him and say, okay, let me assess you on what I just said, right? So those were some of the research data that I used to develop a number of the different programs that I created, not just for my son, but for
Others as well.
students in the community. Yes.
Very
So one of the things I want to emphasize to parents in getting in trying to transition to homeschooling, it is important that you're not mimicking what goes on in the classroom, right? Because it may not be effective for your child. So it's important that you are able to assess your child, understand where he or she is and what is their most pressing need, and then you start working from there.
Yeah. It's good.
Can I make a call? Oh no, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say something real quick before I forget. Something that Miss Jennifer mentioned and something that the Supermom mentioned is that we as educators have to understand that all the students in our class, especially the ones that teach group classes, do not learn at the same pace, at the same speed. So
Yeah.
we have to fulfill the needs of all the students in our class, especially in this COVID situation. Miss Jennifer was saying something that caught my attention, and it's something that I've been thinking and talking to some parents about because some of them are worried, okay, but he's not moving forward with this topic. We need to help parents and families to understand that this is not the time to stress about what people call formal learning. This is not the time for that. There are some other ways that you could help your children to understand a concept in a class. From the music
Yeah.
point of view, you could use songs. They will learn it way faster to learn the alphabet, and it's proven scientifically. They will
Yeah.
learn faster the numbers if they use songs. There's some other methods to do not formal learning, especially in this COVID situation. The examples that Ms. Jennifer said about measuring and stuff are like amazing. And I realize I'm talking about special needs kids. I realize that I prefer to spend 3 months because I have students in that situation playing BAG on the recorder flute. But for some of the kids, that is something that they will finish in less than one class.
Yeah.
But for some kids, that means a symphony. You know what I mean? For some other kids, that BAG means a symphony. And we as educators have to look as excited as they are playing a symphony and as proud of them like they are playing BAG or a very hard piece when it comes to music. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. But Cheryl, you were about to say as well.
Yes, I was going to make a comment off of Supermom and Jennifer what I'm hearing that I think could encourage parents out there is that you guys are really saying in different ways, we need to follow the child. And so, yes, we have a system, we have a school system, we have all of that, you know, if you're 5, you go to school, if you're 8, you do this, if you're 12, you do that. That's great because we have to kind of facilitate everybody. But within that, as parents especially, then we have to look to our child. And what Supermom is saying is she saw her child's need because she knows her child best. And yes, we need guidance and boundaries on that. Everyone can't just do whatever they want or whatever, but she tailored the education for her child. And even Jennifer is saying, you know, if something doesn't work, throw it out. So for the teachers, hey, you know, like that, whoever was saying about the curriculum Supermom was saying it's a guideline. But what I've really seen over the years, my own children, other children working in different environments, you have to get in there and know the child and follow the child. Even what Yoelvis is saying is, you know, if this child is just blossoming on BAG, wonderful, affirm them, celebrate them. That's setting something alive in their brain. Another guy might be doing a symphony or whatever, but for parents out there, don't feel hesitant. You know your child better than anyone. Mom, you have that heart for your child. That doesn't mean just take your kid out of school or something, you know, or whatever, but it means you have a say. You're going to know my child needs something that they're not getting at school, and how can what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do over this lockdown time, or now if school is going to be half day? What am I going to do about it? Am I going to teach them my skill, cooking or whatever, like Miss Jennifer was talking about? And so for parents, follow your child. We study them and we follow them in many ways in drawing out who God made them to be.
That's good. That's good. Verlie, are you with us? I know Verlie's been having some technical difficulties. Are you with us?
I think I'm here now. Not sure, but
yes, we're hearing you. We're hearing you. Awesome.
Okay. To add to the discussion, you know, one of the things that I have learned as a counselor is that we must allow children to be children. And one of the things that I use when I'm counseling children a lot is what we refer to as play therapy. And play therapy is simply allowing children to play in the normal state. You know, so as parents,
we lost you, Verlie. Yeah, we lost Verlie. Yeah, but you know, this is a perfect example of what our kids have to deal with, trying to do online classes in our school system in our country where our internet isn't as reliable as we would want it to be. So this is a lot of the realities of what we kind of have to deal with as parents and teachers dealing with this kind of system, right? So I had a question that came in for Ms. Cheryl. This is from Barrington. He says, Ms. Cheryl's statement on teachers taking time to give personal comments using the virtual classroom environment. Being a psychotherapist, many of my clients here in New York are overwhelmed because some of the schools have teachers who only post the work without any direct interaction with the students. Ms. Stirm, have you noticed any significant progress in students' performance when they receive a direct response from you about their work? That's what they were asking.
Yes, very much. That is my passion. And those children, all of us, but those children are longing to make a connection. You know, there's a scripture in Job that says that God took note of me. He noticed me. And as a child, I felt unnoticed because my parents were busy trying to survive. I felt overlooked. And I grew up, I had my life in that. And one day I realized when I read that scripture that my passion is to look into a child's eyes and connect with them. And so even it's not the best when it's a comment over Google Classroom, hey, I liked your comment when you said this, that drew out a good point about what we were asking the questions about and so on. Like, it's not the best because you can't see them, you can't connect, but I notice a response.
Yeah.
So as humans, we're looking to be noticed, we're looking to be affirmed, we're
Yeah.
looking to be seen. God made us that way. And so whenever a child feels noticed, you stop and you see them in the classroom and you look them in the eye and say, hey, how are you today, Johnny? It changes their day. And so the
Yeah.
same over the internet. They need to be noticed, just sending
Yeah.
back. But the poor teachers, how many kids are they working with? How many subjects, how many things are they grading? And they're sending out assignments and they're supposed to be creative and they're cooking their kids lunch at home.
Yeah.
And, so I understand the teachers too. But yes, of course, that personal affirmation makes a difference.
And that's where parents as well needs to kick in, because I specifically took note. Like my daughter was having a challenge at the beginning. Actually, she was having some bad attitude. My daughter is very emotional, very expressive. If she's feeling it, you'll know it, because you will see it on her face, you will see it in her attitude. And she was sitting in the chair like, ugh, like she didn't want to be there. But then I think her teacher took note of that, and her teacher started to a little affirmation. She was like, "Good job, Chloe," and "That's fantastic, Chloe." And Chloe went to my wife, and she was like, "The teacher thought like it was excellent, it was fantastic," and then that became her goal every day, to get the teacher to say this was excellent. And so she started to do her work. She was the first to try to be the first to get it done, get the highest grade, because she wanted to get that simple affirmation of that was great, Chloe, or that. And so the power of affirmation, and anyone can do that. And I, again, part of why we're talking about this, because I know it can be overwhelming. For me, even coming home from a long day of work, sometimes I'm a little bit tired, mentally drained as a father, and my wife's with the kids all day, and I walk in the house and I'm bombarded with, "Daddy, look at what we did today. Look at this, look at this, look at this." And to consciously make a choice to notice it and to say, "Wow, that's beautiful," or "That's awesome," or "Good job on that," or "You did a wonderful job." And so even for parents out there, I just want to encourage you and affirm you and say, "Hey, we get it. It's a crazy time." But in the midst of that, let's be deliberate in affirming our kids. That's one of the things I'm hearing a lot from all the discussion: the power of affirmation, the power of encouragement, because they are. I mean, what I wrote this down. This generation and the kids that are dealing with this COVID thing, that feeling of loneliness and isolation is going to be a real reality for them, and we need to do our part to help them know that no, they're not alone. They're a part of a group. They're a part of a family. There are people that love them and that's in their corner, right? And so, actually, I had another question that came in. Let me just pull this up. This was a question that came in. It says, "How have you guys been creative and innovative in this time?" And I know Supermom has been. Your Elvis is like, "Oh, well, what are some of the creative, innovative things that you've been doing in this time, and that we can share with those who are tuned in still?"
Okay, well, besides the homeschooling platform, today was the first day for our virtual camp. Super Homeschool is hosting a virtual camp, and we're offering online lessons in Mandarin, Spanish. There's a BJAT and PSC camp, chess strategy, I guess workshop you would call it. And then we also have a math tournament, right? So those are some of the things that Super Homeschool has put on the table as a way to engage our young people in a positive and productive way, and offer them some of the things they wouldn't get with their traditional education. Furthermore, the Super Homeschool program rolls out August 31st. And we have extracurricular activities, right? Besides the programs covered or the lessons covered based on the curriculum. We also have graphic design classes and animation development. Within the next 6 months, we'll be introducing mobile app development and 3D game development as part of our program, right? Because one of the things we want to emphasize, especially now that we've had this pandemic and we had to lock down for 3 months, is not just educating the children like Miss Jennifer said, but also looking at career opportunities
Yeah.
post-pandemic, right? Because I mean, we cannot predict what direction things are going in, but at the same time, we have to be prepared, and we have to prepare our children for life after COVID, right?
Yeah.
And regardless of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Merv, if I could jump in, I
Sure.
think too is some of the things that our teachers did a really super job at during the school year without COVID is we really did worked on connecting and making things connect to things they already know. So we had room transformations where they would walk in and they would see Charlie in the Chocolate Factory's room, and it's not like you're thinking, oh, you guys have all this money and you have Walmart. No, this was creative using paper plates. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, we had Shark Week, we had looking at Bigfoot and the Yeti and those kinds of things, and Sherlock Holmes. And so one of the things is they kept that product throughout virtual and remote learning, whereby the teachers would take time to figure out ways they could do drive-bys, leave things on the porch, or figure out where the kids are living, and they would put something on the porch for the children to do. Nothing that cost a whole lot of money. Again, you gather rocks and sticks outside and they paint them. Looking at having color days, finding things in your house that are a certain color, and what can you invent? Find 18 things in your home, and some of them have to be in this category, and make something with it and tell the story behind it. Pull out a cereal box out of your cabinet and make a live video commercial, right? So then they can how we can really thinking how we can be creative with some of the skills that we need to have for the kids, but looking at those things, like even with the chapel, because our school is a Christian school and we have chapel. So the teachers worked to have virtual chapel. The kids participated. We have house games where kids are separated into groups that we call houses, and they had house challenges. And in our primary grades, they had show and tell, where they had students come on a call with their thing. And if the student couldn't get to the internet, because we do have kids that are without some technology, they would take pictures of their show and tell, and they would tell about it on a voice call. So I think thinking those ways are again not very expensive. I think if we start thinking about what's fun, play, our brain will work so much better when we're having fun. And finding music, kids love music, and let them come up with lyrics, change the lyrics, make something. One of the kids took a popular song and he created it for a chapel song and talked about, we're going to beat this COVID and we're going to do whatever. I mean, but they had this whole thing going with like even dance with it. So I think using the things that they love, if teachers, and most of the teachers, I tell everybody this, most teachers don't wake up and say, man, I want to stink today as a teacher. I just don't want to do my job. Most teachers are in this because, like Cheryl said, they want to make a difference in the kids' lives. So I think if you just kind of think about what you think is fun, I think the kids will think that too.
Yeah, that might be scary for me, Miss Jen, because what's fun for me? my idea of fun is not cheap. I would say My idea of fun is like let's do a full-on production show or something like that. Like that's fun for me. Right, Yoelvis?
But can't they do a full-on production
But
without all the Mervin
yeah, I know,
lights
right?
and camp? Like
I know, right?
they really
Not
could.
really.
And one of the things that would be fun, Merv, is you have such a platform. Like you could even have where kids create something. You put something to the schools and say, hey, here's some ideas, here's some issues we have right now. I've got this problem, I've got to create an ad for this company, and the kids do it. Say, hey, and we'll give you whatever, maybe a day to come see how you do your business. A lot of kids would die for that.
Yeah.
They would love that.
Yeah.
Great
And
idea.
and they just get involved, and you never know, you may have your next employee.
Yeah. There you go.
And Elvis
Yeah.
can help
Very
them.
I can add some activities that the parents or the children could do at home from the music point of view. And Miss Jennifer said that the kids love music, and it's true. And I'm gonna say, Mervin, there are way cheaper ways, parents, because I know you want to put the full production. I know that
Yeah.
because for Festival of Arts, Mervin told me I'm gonna set Chloe for Festival of Arts, and I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. She's gonna be all right. When I see the video on Festival of Art page, full production, I was like, okay, good, congratulations. But for those parents that have like kind of technology afraid about all the situation, there's a lot of things that you can do with your kids. What I love about this situation with COVID is that obligated or maybe like pushed a lot of parents to be more involved in their
Yeah.
children's education.
Yeah.
That's one thing I gotta say. Because before, in an example for a music class, the kid's supposed to come here, they drop them off, and because this is a Allegro Music School, everybody knows us, they just drop the kids and sometimes leave them like 3 hours after they finish the class. And no problem with that because we're here. You know what I mean? But now the parent have to be at home listening to the class in front of the computer. Now, when I used to teach to tune the guitar for a student, now the parent have to sit beside the student and help the student to move the peg and
Yeah.
to tune and to know how to open a YouTube playlist for my singing students. And how Mary used to sing to sit right beside Chloe in every singing class to open the YouTube playlist. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna say a few things that the parents could do at home when it comes to music. Music improvisation or family, what we call jam session. You don't have to be a musician to do a jam section on your hand. All you need to pull up is a karaoke machine, or even that.
Yeah.
Pull up your computer and your YouTube and sing some children's songs with them. So you can actually on YouTube for free, you can create playlists for them. So you could add music that motivates me, music that makes me happy, music from my favorite movie, music that calms me, family favorites, all of that playlist. It's safe on YouTube when you have a children channel. So all of this is safe if you know the right thing to do. And as I said before, singing decreases anxiety and depression, and especially in this time that the kids needs all that social connection. Set one night for the week to do a karaoke night. It doesn't matter how bad you sing, it's fine.
Yeah.
If the kid in the house is the one that takes voice lesson, he's gonna be
Let it-
so happy to be the best one in the house. Believe me. So set a karaoke night every week or once every 2 weeks and have fun
Yeah.
with the family using music. Whenever our children does not get a concept in math or language arts or any subject, find a song. Find a popular song, Let It Go from Frozen. Change the lyrics. Make them write their own lyrics using the same melody from Let It Go from Frozen.
It's good.
And you will see how fast they will learn this concept and they will actually have fun learning
Doing it, yeah.
using music.
Very good. Very good. Awesome. And then there was dead silence. This is awesome, guys. This is even for me. I'm sitting here and I am learning. I am not a like you're saying, Elvis. I'm a big production type of guy. Everything is a big production, and there's a space for that. But you're right. Just growing up for me, how I got involved with a lot, and I learned a lot our family used to do just devotional time, and you grab a grater, you grab a bat pan, you grab a pint bottle, and it was fun. It was, it was something that you did as a family together. And you're right, a lot of the stuff that I retain came in that music form, because music is very central to me. I'm very audio oriented, right? And so I'm also thinking about other stuff that we can do here with our girls. I know my girls, they like production, because obviously we're into production as a family. And I would come home and Chloe would be like, okay, it's time to sit down. Here's your ticket. You need to come. And they've made a big full-on production in their room, and there's tickets that they made, and they draw everything. And now I guess the new thing is reality TV, and so they're taking the phones, and they're doing these little home videos, and okay, we're playing with our dolls, but I'm watching. What I love about it, they're learning how to express themselves and articulate their thoughts. They're learning how, I find that they're becoming better and better of expressing themselves and articulating what they're feeling, articulating what they're learning, taking what they saw and put it into a little production for us as a family. So those are free things that we can do home with our kids. And I think as parents, it's just creating a space that it's safe and okay to do that. We want to create a space home that is safe and okay to do that, that you can express yourself, that you can share your ideas and include them in the coming up with solutions for them and what they want to do. My wife did a thing where she wrote on the refrigerator a list of things that how will we respond to these situations, and she had them Chloe write it out and stick it on the fridge, and now they're retaining it a lot more, right? And so guys, we are actually in our last half hour segment, and I firstly want to thank everyone for tuning in, and those who are in. Again, if you have comments, feel free to send it in. Just comment in the comment section. If you have questions, feel free to ask. We want to hear from you. We want to know what's going on and what you're hearing and from what we're discussing. I just want to take this opportunity again to thank our sponsors, Task Belize, Elevate Consulting, Coaching with Melanie, Builders Hardware, Boojum Solutions. I want to KSBJ Fashions. I want to thank you guys for partnering with us to make these Creative Monday discussion happen. And if you guys, anyone out there wants to know how you can become a sponsor or partner with us, please get in touch with me, and we will definitely give you that information. So as we're kind of in our last half hour segment, I want to just give this opportunity to each one of us to just kind of share what is that one thing that you really want, one or two things, and we want to keep it condensed as much as possible because we want to allow everyone that opportunity. But what do you want parents out there, even teachers, to walk away with and hold on to in this time? Who want to go first?
Well, I can go first. I think the main point is this is the time. My phone is having the shadow. I think we've never seen anything like this before in our history, and I think if we use this time as a time to really engage innovation and really start asking those questions of educators, of legislators, of even business people, what do you need our children to have?
Yeah.
And then once we know, the thing that I keep hearing when people were telling their stories about their kids doing things, and when you were talking about your precious one, who I love watching on Facebook, by the way, an engaged child is a learning child. And when we have students, just like Tiffany mentioned, she was at a crisis. Her son could not sit in a traditional room where he was lectured. So when we're doing talk and chalk, and our systems have gotten much better, but when we're doing talk and chalk, because that's all we've done, and we're continuing to do the standards because we've always done them, most of the children are not engaged that way. And I think this opportunity that we have to really look and slow down a bit and say, what is going to be effective for my community? What's going to be effective for my child? And parents are now, as Elvis shared, they're learning how their children learn. Like, Tiffany already knew that because she took that time to homeschool. But these parents now are like sitting at home going, wait a minute, my child doesn't learn that way. And why is the teacher handing them paper after paper when they really
Yeah.
need to figure it out? So I think the big takeaway is question.
Yeah.
Why are we doing what we're doing? And is this the best way?
Yeah. Very good. I like that.
I'm just gonna say three things that very short things. Is two. I'm just gonna repeat myself about helping the parents understand that do not stress about formal learning.
Yeah.
Stress right now about keeping your child happy, your child learning at their own speed and having fun with what they are learning. Finding ways and a sense of community. We cannot be able to go outside and play with other kids, but we could surely speak with the kid beside our house, sing songs together with the fence in the middle, social
Social
distance
distancing.
requirements, all the stuff you can do, and actually build partnership with your own family inside your house.
Yeah.
If today I sit with my kid during, and this is the time when all parents, even brothers or sisters like older in the house, they have to take turns to help the child, the smaller one in the house, to do their education. And in that way, if you didn't used to connect that much with your brother before, because that happened when you have an older sister and an older brother, sometimes you connect better with a friend in your classroom than with your brother at home. Isn't that right? So this is a time where families could build partnership and connect in between them right at home. Take turns and help each other and be there for each other, because God knows when it will be the next day
Yeah.
or whatever, when we can actually be in an environment with other people other than your own family.
Yeah. Very good.
Amen. I agree totally with both of you, and I guess my takeaway would be keep it really simple. Maybe parents are at home right now. School's coming up for a lot of kids not too long from now, but they're thinking, "Wow, what should I be teaching them? What should we be working on? Oh dear, they're going into Standard 5 or Standard 6. They need to know this and this and this and this and this." What I see working with kids of all ages, because they're struggling in an area, what I see is what they really need is just the basics. Just go back to the basics. So, sit down with them. Can they add, subtract, multiply, and divide? Go back through those basics and, their basic reading. Find them something they can read at their level they can read at, and that they could have fun reading it, and get them to do that for a few minutes every day. You'll gain a lot more than if you go, "Oh no, they're going into Standard 4. Here, let me find the Standard 4 material. Oh no, they can't read it." Well, make them sit there and read it for an hour every day, because they'll get it. And what I thought of was, if you go to a World Cup football coach and say, "Okay, I want to be amazing like you," he's not going to take you out there and, I don't know what these moves are called, but teach you something where he flips backwards and kicks over his head back way into the goal. He's not going to take you out there and teach you this amazing, high level concept. So parents, that's not what you're looking to do. What is that coach going to do? He's going to say, "Let's practice passing, pass, 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 pass. Let's practice striking on the goal." The basics. If you go to LeBron James or someone, "I want to be famous at basketball like you," he's not going to say, "Oh, let me show you this, twisting up in the air, dunking, fancy thing." He's going to say, "I want you out there shooting, 150 shots a day. I want you, dribbling the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball." What I see with all of the kids I work with is they just need to go back. We go back and we go through the basics. And most parents, you can take your kids through the basics. These other little fancy concepts, those are like icing on the cake. If you've got the basics down, the strong foundation, you could add on that little icing on the cake later. But like Supermom said, the priority for her child was, if he learns to read, he can do everything else.
Yeah.
And so a little bit of reading at their level, get something, some little online YouTube thing that helps for the level they're at. Do a few minutes of reading every day, or add, subtract, multiply, and divide, or the basics. And then, like Miss Jennifer says, get them doing something that helps their skill set. They should be outside. They should be washing the dishes. They could be building something, or let's learn to take care of a chicken and raise, have farm fresh eggs, have them doing something, and then the basics, math and reading, and they'll come out farther ahead through all of this. So for the parents not to stress out, oh, I can't teach them at that level.
Yeah. Very
That's
good.
my takeaway.
Very good. Supermom? The
Okay, I presume we're wrapping up. My speakers have dropped out for the past 15 minutes, so I've been trying to read some lips and keep abreast with what is going on, right? But I just want to encourage parents, especially during this time, to allow themselves to transition from what it is they have known for all these years and to venture into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
As scary as that may sound, this pandemic has presented an opportunity for us to really close the gaps in our education system, gaps that have been lingering for a very long time, and we have become comfortable with those gaps.
Yeah.
Right? So now the time has come where neglecting those gaps will cost us, and we are now forced to address them, especially here in Belize when it comes to our internet connections and not always having the kind of services that we need to progress as a nation, taking better advantage of innovation, right?
Yeah.
We have access to many tools that we don't use as efficiently as we should, right? We are now in a position where we have to make those adjustments.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you all to allow this or to recognize this little bit of discomfort as an opportunity for growth, right?
Yeah.
So that we can better lead our children into their purpose and better prepare them for the future that is ahead of them.
Yeah. Very good. And guys, I just want to say this as well as we're wrapping up. The future is changing, and COVID has forced the world to shift. It's forced the world to pause, to reflect, and to pivot. And if we are gonna innovate and step into the future, this is important. Conversation is important, because by dialoguing and having conversation, we can glean from each other and learn from each other, and see the areas that we need to adjust and shift, right? And so that's part of why these discussions are so helpful. That's why these discussions are so important, because it's part of how we learn where the innovation is happening, where do we need to focus, what are the things we need to consider, even for us, what are the new skill set and the jobs of the future that we need to start prepare our kids for from now. And the world is changing, the world is shifting, and we need to start shift the way that we're preparing our kids for that future, right? And so I actually have one more question that came in that I want to release to us as we're wrapping up. So for parents on the panel, home is the place of comfort where children look forward to relaxing and also having access to all the games, fun activities, and other technologies. How have you managed to help your children navigate away from the various distractions that rival the virtual classroom?
Was that for me?
I think it's for anyone.
I'm gonna leave that.
No, it's only when you're full screen I could see your lips, but yes.
I would say,
Merv,
yeah, Miss Jen.
Merv, I can speak a little bit to that. I think it's intentionality. So just like anything, we eat at a certain time, we go to bed at a certain time. When we wake up, we brush our teeth. So setting a schedule and talking to your child about what would work for you. And I have a son. That are watching that know I have a daughter, Lindsay. She danced in Belize, but I also have a son that I got when he was 6, and he's now 10. But I sat with him and said, how is your day going to look? Because I have these responsibilities, you have these. Let's craft a plan and let's stick to it. And we included play. He needs to go out and play basketball and he needs to do this. So he chose when he wanted to do certain things. And as long as he was working at the pace he needed, then he was able to go and do the fun things that he wants to do. So it was very important to include him in that choice and give him the choice of, do you want to do math first or do you want to read the story first? What do you need my help with? Do I need to sit with you at the table? Tell me what. And so we crafted a plan, just like I would craft a work plan. And that worked so well with him. And some of my teachers also suggested that to our parents. And we would have these panels as well for our school, where we would talk. And parents that were able to set a schedule with intentionality, but also hold them accountable. They're going to tantrum or whatever. I'm sorry, the game is away until you can do what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to echo that.
I think it's good to have to have a structure. I remember now seeing a picture of a parent from here, from Allegro. And I'm not gonna say names or anything, but I remember seeing a picture where there was a paper on the fridge saying this student name, guitar class, this time, snack time, this time, that kind of a structure. And then I also see a picture where all the kids have their space for learning. And that's very important because that's why you say how you keep technology away and all of that. You cannot, I don't think it is fair for the student, for the children, to be sitting in the living room having the class where the TV is in front of you. You know what I mean? So there needs to be their own space so they know that this is the space that I will be learning, you know, and stick to that structure and stick to that schedule and hold them accountable for that.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to say, you need structure. So in the midst of the shift that's happening, you have to quickly carve out structure. And that's what we had to do. I remember sitting with my wife and saying, okay, we need a schedule. We need a system. We still need a time to get up at school time. What was happening, because my daughter, she works so fast and it's a lot of kids, my daughter would be finished quick and just kind of sitting there and getting bored and idle and start to want to do other stuff. And so I told my wife, okay, we already know that Chloe gets through these material very fast. So, okay, let's find other things that she can do while she's waiting on the other kids. Because, you're sitting there on a screen and they're going through each kid, so she would hide the camera and then Chloe will go and start do another craft, do another book, do something else. And then when it's her time, come back on the screen. So while the school was doing a schedule, Chloe's schedule was actually a little bit more packed because we were adding more into it so that she wasn't just sitting there waiting around. Because I was very concerned about that. Like you're moving at a fast pace and then you have to kind of move slow because you're waiting on everyone else. I didn't want to what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't want to do her an injustice and slow her down in that sense. Right. So we wanted to make sure that we're feeding her because she was hungry. And especially since she developed a passion for reading, she wanted to read everything. She's on top of everything. And so we wanted to feed her that, right? And so, and I want to say that to the parents, you need a schedule, you need a system. So this is the time we go to bed still. This is the time we do reading. This is the time that's play time. This is your break time, and have that. On our refrigerator, it's right there. Your schedule is right there and how we operate, right? And that's key for kids because they need structure. They need a sense of stability in the home. And it's our job as parents to create that.
Mervin, maybe a topic for another time. This whole thing with that structure and everything, kids signing in for their class online and then they say they're present, but they're off gaming with their friends. Yes. And do parents, I hope it goes without saying, but the whole thing that the gaming and what that does in your brain, the dopamine or whatever, it's like they're sitting there with a pile of cocaine and they're an addict And you're going to go, oh yes, Johnny, go in your room for 6 hours, and yeah, you got a pile of cocaine there, but don't touch it. Have a good day and get your math done. And so maybe it's a topic for another time, but this is something that's going to steal the good side of the internet if our kids are, and if we're on lockdown or kids are home half a day and parents are busy, oh, just go on your games. No, that's turning your kid's brain into jello or something, and not healthy for them. So maybe that's a topic we could address another time and help the parents.
Definitely. Well, I just want to say thank you to all those who have tuned in. I want to thank the parents for tuning in. I want to thank our panelists for just being awesome and just giving your resource and giving your experience to us tonight. It definitely was a great conversation. I hope that you guys gleaned from it, those who tuned in. And again, I want to just thank our sponsors. Thank you guys for making this happen. Thanks to Task Belize, Elevate Consulting, Coaching with Melanie, Builders Hardware, KSBJ Fashions, The Art Shack, and Budram Solutions. If you guys want to partner with us, become a sponsor, please feel free to contact myself, info at Mervin Budram, as well as send a WhatsApp message to me or a text messages as well, right? And I just want to say, guys, if you want to become a long-term partner as well, I have a Patreon account out, Mervin Budram on Patreon. You can go to that and find out how you can become a long-term partner with me as we continue to produce this content and other content like this. So it's patreon.com/Mervin Budram. It's on the screen. If you want to find out how you can become a long-term partner with us, or if you want to make a one-time donation, we also have a PayPal account, PayPal.me, MD Music Ministries, and you can become a partner with us in these ventures and what we're doing. Our desire is to inspire, motivate, and help transform lives. And so that's why we're doing these shows. And we're going to continue to release more content like this. I just want to thank you guys for joining us, being with us tonight. And I want to say have a great evening. Goodbye and God bless you.
Thank you, Merv.